let me see if I could get, I want the Zoom controls back so that I can, I'm going to open the chat on my other screen so that I could follow along in case there are any questions. All right, so today this is the e-resource advisory meeting for October 26, 2023. Thank you all for joining. We've got a nice turnout so far. Of course, we may have some latecomers to our meeting, and that's fine. I won't interrupt to ask them to introduce themselves or anything like that. So I do want to open my participants on another slide as well. Okay. So we don't have a ton of stuff on the agenda, but I have, let me get out of here. So we've got a couple things on our agenda. So I'd like to just go ahead and review and finalize our open access resources project. Of course, that's something that if you've attended our last couple of meetings, you're very familiar with this project that we've had ongoing. So today I'd like to just finalize those documents, make sure they all look great, and that we as a group agree on this resources list. I'd also like to discuss maybe some goals for 2024, and I've got a couple of points to get us talking and to get that discussion going. And we could use, I'd like to use Miraboard for that, so I'll share the link with you all in the chat in just a little bit so that we can work together on maybe some goals for 2024. And also, I'd like to create a list of go-to topics. So if you are receiving updates for our SWAN community forums, you've probably saw my post about kind of having some go-to topics. That way we always have something to throw on the agenda, and I'm not sort of reaching to the depths of my knowledge to try to add some topics for us to talk about in our advisory meetings. So it'd be great if we could all come up with some, just like a list of topics together. We don't have to discuss them at every meeting, just something that I can throw on if there are not a whole, or if there's not a whole lot going on for that upcoming meeting. And then I do have two things that I'd like to possibly bring up, and we could just have some very informal, casual discussions about them. But I had some tickets this week, and so I'd like to maybe get your all feelings on it. But one would be maybe like either recommendations for Hoopla or maybe talking about that. And then also another topic was maybe like troubleshooting e-resources. So these are the e-resources, like not EBSCO, right? Because I have a lot of control of EBSCO, but maybe those electronic platforms that I don't have a lot of control over, like Hoopla, Overdrive, just to name two right off the bat that like I can't see a whole lot that's going on there. I don't control it at all. These are resources that you as a library have, you know, just that direct contact with these vendors. So maybe what does troubleshooting those resources look like? And maybe we could talk about that a little bit. And then of course, just to kind of round out the meeting is, you know, this is our last one for 2023. We're not going to meet again until February 2024. And the registrations are going to look a little bit different for 2024. So I'll get to that at the end here. All right, so let's get talking about, let me pull up our open access resources project. So I did include the documents. So if you go to our support site, and I'll enter this into the chat so that you can see it. But down here in these additional files, this is the open access checklist and the open access resources. So if you'd like to go ahead and take a moment to download that, I, in the meanwhile, am going to open those documents to share with you so you could follow along with me. All right. Let me get that's the checklist, and then let me open the actual list of resources. Oh, sorry, you're gonna see some other stuff I was working on in Excel. Just move that off to the edge. Okay. So this, of course, is the actual list of those open access databases. And let me start with our checklist. So I think what I wanted to do was to make this checklist, one, be accessible for all of our SWAN members. That way it's something that you can download to your computer, or I don't know, maybe have it available. But this is a checklist for staff and librarians at the library. This is not going to be something that our patrons necessarily see. But these are sort of our goals for. And can you still see my checklist, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, great. I was wondering if like
yes.
I shared the screen, or if I was just sharing like Chrome or something. So I just making sure that you all could still see it. Okay, so let me make this a little bit larger here. So I know we went over this before if you've attended previous advisory meetings, but we just had sort of the definition, right? Very basic resources that are freely available for viewing and or use, and our goal with the recommendations. And we wanted to have this checklist here, not only just for our list of recommended resources, but also for libraries that may already have an open access resource page on their library websites, or if they choose to continue to add to their own site, right? They don't just have to stick with the few that we recommended. They may not be applicable. They may already have those resources. So just sort of a guide or a checklist for those librarians to continue to make those choices and sort of the things that you're looking at. And I kept it as a Word document just so that it is editable, right? So that way you could physically like, okay, it's not, oh, because that, right, just so that it's actually like something that you could check off and cross off. So that's why I had chose to make this as a Word document. Does anybody here see any issue with having a Word document and sharing that Word document with our SWAN member libraries? And if you don't have access to a microphone, you could just throw something in the chat. I've got it open on my other screen. And then of course, with the checklist, we just have standards, just sort of tips for maintenance, things you want to look out for. You don't want to have broken links on your library website. So this is nice to kind of maybe evaluate those resources on an annual basis. And of course, the discoverability, something for you all to think about. Great. Thank you so much for the feedback in the chat. I could see that everyone looks like the Word document is going to work for us. Yeah, so I was able to fit it all on one page. I think this is great. It's nice, it's short, it's sweet, it's to the point. And we want to make this as easy as possible because again, this is for our member libraries. And let's go over the list of resources now. So I'm gonna enable editing. So we made the decision to sort of break it down by categories. I do have a hidden tab here. And this was sort of the working resource list that we created together on Google Docs some time ago. I forgot what meeting it was. I can't remember if it was our last meeting or even the meeting before that. But some things I did leave off. I sort of made an executive decision, only because, not that it's not helpful, but because it was so specific to, like this is specific to Kane County, and Cook County was just a lot to work through. And like DuPage County, I couldn't find something that was comparable to like this site. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't have it on your site if you've got something similar or looking for something similar. So that's why, just sort of wanted you to find my reasonings for why I didn't include some things on there. But this is the resources tab. This is the tab that's going to be made available. I included the category that it would fall under, of course, the name of the database, the URL, the full URL, and just some information. So if you or our SWAN member libraries include this particular resource, they have that information ready to go and they could add it to their library website. So if you all just want to take a moment to kind of go through this list, and we have time today. Do we want to add more stuff to it? Are there any last minute additions that we should throw on there? We've got a lot of genealogy. We've got a lot of resources in genealogy. It's important to a lot of our SWAN members, but do we need more employment resources? Do we want more kids stuff? Maybe we want to remove something, just the Explore Chicago collections, is that relative to all of us? Maybe we want to add some other ones or take off some stuff. So definitely take a moment to look through it. I have my document open. I could add or remove resources. If you want to throw things in the chat or unmute yourself, we can do that too. Or if you think it's good to go, I think there's a total of 14 resources because that first line is just headings there. But if we like it and it's good, then we can introduce this as our recommended list along with the checklist for our SWAN members. I'm not sure if anybody's typing in the chat right now. Yeah, Dawn, do you mean like to this recommended list, or once you have these resources on your website to add to it?
I guess either one, because I feel like there has to be other stuff that we maybe didn't think of, but
Yeah.
we'll think of over time, like as patrons, as we get different patron questions.
Yeah, I think that's good. I'm actually going to add that to my notes. Maybe that could be like a goal of ours too, is like reviewing these list of resources. Like that could be a goal that we could have on an annual basis. We'll review this list one meeting and then the next meeting come back with some additional ones, or if it's static and we don't want to change it, we could do that. Does that sound like a good plan? That maybe fits into some other areas of our meeting today?
I think that's a good plan because if it's not scheduled for me to review it,
Then we're not gonna get to it, right?
yeah, and then who knows, like, what if the link changes and then like the wrong link is on my website for like a
Right.
year, and you know how that goes.
Yeah, no, I think this is a great idea, and I'm adding it to I've got my notes on my other screen here that I'm adding to it. It's project review, annual basis. We could figure that out at a later time. But yeah, I think that's great for ongoing review of these resources. We never know. One of these sites may disappear, right? If there's no, or it may just become so old that it's not useful anymore. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yeah, and Michelle looks like sounds like a good plan. Great. All right. So are we happy with this list as is? And again, when we make the recommendation, I'll add the disclaimer that this is not the only list of resources, and libraries can pick and choose depending on their patrons and what kind of questions that they encounter. right. All right. Well, that was easy. Thank you all for participating in this. And I know it seems like we've been working on it all year because we have, but now we're wrapping it up and now we could just move into reviewing it and adding to it or removing things from it, but we don't have to start from scratch. Checklist, good to go. All right. Great, so I'm not going to change anything on the checklist or on the list of resources. So the don't save. So the links for those documents here, these meeting documents, those are the ones that our SWAN member libraries are going to see and have the recommendations for. All right, so now we can move on to our next topic, which is goals for 2024. Unless anybody wants to have any last minute questions or reservations about the Open Access Resources Project. I don't think I see anything coming through the chat.
I was just going to pipe in and say we'll get that on the SWAN support site, so it's available for all the SWAN members.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. I think I had forgot to talk to you about where that was going to live, but yes, we did talk about it being on the support site.
Put that in the e-resources section and try to give it a plug.
Yay!
When it's up.
Thank you. All right, so we have got. I've just got a mirror board up. Goals and topics were, it's, like I said, let's just have a casual, informal discussion and activity around this. Let me share it. Anyone with a link can edit. Okay. Let's see. Let's throw this in here. Let's see if we could work on this together. Hopefully I did that right. Great, I see people joining. Awesome. So I'm just going to pick one side and let's do goals 2024. And what you can do is just sort of grab a sticky note, start typing away on it. Let me put a few in there, or if you want me to drive, I could drive too. But some things to get started with thinking about our goals for 2024. So we know right away, right, we're going to have the open access review. So I could add that on here. Open access review of, why am I uppercasing that? Review of resources. Okay, so that's going to be one thing that we get to. Oh my gosh. All right.
Olivia, are we supposed to pick any specific color?
No, yeah, I think we could just kind of do whatever. I think I moved stuff around just to kind of see how it worked.
Okay.
But I'll keep the goals and the topics. Let me do a thing for topics. We're not going to do that right at this moment, but I will get it so that we stay away from that side. So anything that you want to talk about for goals for 2024 that we could work on together as an advisory. Let's do that. Oh, another thing I was thinking about, it was maybe, I know I talked a little bit and a couple of you opened tickets after our previous meetings about gaining access to the reports for Open Athens. Has anybody used them or accessed them? And you could totally unmute yourself or throw it in the chat. And what I'm trying to get at is that the Open Athens reporting, I accessed them and played around, but nothing serious. Okay, great. Thank you very much for that feedback. Now, my position is unique, right? So I could see all these reports and they're fine for maybe what I need them for. but are they useful for what you need them for? Like, what kind of information are you hoping to get from these reports? Maybe we could build a more robust reporting with Open Athens information. So is that something that maybe we'd like to look into more? Is that of interest for all of us here? Okay, great. Yeah. So we can make that a goal of like, because it's something that we'll have to discuss, right? Like, what parameters are we looking for? What things are we hoping to gain from the Open Athens report? And then, of course, then my job would be to work with the Open Athens team to get those parameters turned on, or to see how we could best build those types of reports. That way they're accessible to you. So does that sound like a good plan for everybody? So we can make that as a goal. Maybe making the Open Athens reports a little bit more, what's the right word? Robust. Just do that. More, I can't think of a better word right now. Okay. So we could have that. I'm just doing some work over here on my notes. How about any type of group purchase? Is anybody interested in a particular group purchase that maybe we like to investigate for 2024? And it's not necessarily that the goal has to be that we follow through and, do a group purchase, but maybe even just setting up some sort of demo or webinar. That way we could get additional information, kind of discuss it as an advisory, and then maybe make a decision whether or not we wish to go through with it. And Dawn, that's about the group purchase, right? Okay, great. Now, what do we want to investigate as a group purchase? Now I'm going to throw it on you. Press reader. Okay. Yeah. So let me do.
Might just add to the question, sort of like if there's things that you really like that you're using, that might be something good to investigate. Like if a couple SWAN libraries are already using them, that's a good sign that others might be interested. But also if there's something like super brand spanking new and you just don't know a lot about it, that there might be an opportunity for SWAN to arrange like a group demo SWAN wide, or for this group to be the kind of like the hosts of a demo for that.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so some buzz in the chat about Press Reader, Value Line, and Morningstar. Yeah, but we definitely have other SWAN member libraries that already have subscriptions for those resources. So it's something that we could certainly look into and see what's available for us at a group level. And I'm actually Brainfuse. We do not have a group package through SWAN for Brainfuse. I'm just making notes for these vendors' resources that you all are adding in the chat.
You want me to just make like little sub notes with all these, Olivia? You just
Oh, you mean like in the mirror board? Or
yeah,
if you
make them the green category. So yeah,
you.
brain views, value line.
Sorry, I could tell you use mirror board a lot more than I do, because I can't even like grasp the like the colors are here for a reason, right? Like the organization.
What? Oh my god, Chilton just came up. Okay, and then yeah, Press Reader was a big one.
Yeah. I also had Morningstar.
Morningstar. You guys have lots of good ideas.
Yeah, this is great.
That'll keep you busy.
How about any other ones that maybe vendors reached out to you and oh, LinkedIn Learning.
Are there any streaming or ebook
Mhm.
download type things? Like we've already got a subscription for Canopy.
Yeah, we do have the current discount for Canopy and for
Yeah, what's out there that we don't know about?
British TV streaming service. I like their shows. I want Acorn.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay for it. I think Hoopla has some of that stuff available, if I'm not mistaken.
So, and there's also, yeah, I think so looking at maybe some things we don't necessarily know the platform, but options. Like I like that Dawn suggests what are alternatives to Mango.
Mm-hmm. Language learning, that's great.
Anyone looked into the Palace Project? Cricket. I was just curious if there's any interest in that. It's an e-resource, or sorry, an ebook platform.
Where we should be able to integrate Hoopla, Overdrive. So instead of your patrons having all these different apps on their device, they would have one that could access all of those streaming ebook platforms.
We did do it was previously, well, it's an offshoot of Simply E, which I know this group investigated a little bit, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. Simply E is no longer, it's just a New York Public thing now. I think it's available to develop on, but the Palace Project is sort of an offshoot of that.
So is that something of interest? It looks like Dawn agrees that it sounds like a good idea. Do you think that would be, I'm sorry, I'm trying to move over. Oh, hello. Or do you think maybe patrons would be resistant to the idea of something else to download? Or just being set in their ways, having their methods of, well, I like Overdrive, so I'm always in Overdrive, or I like Hoopla, I'm always in Hoopla. What do we think the feedback might be on having something like Palace Project?
I think it would be really positive. I mean, at least for our patrons, I know.
Great.
I have heard of Simply E. When I worked at another library, we were maybe like beta testers for it, and I thought it was really cool, but I don't think anything ever really came of it.
Okay.
But it's a great idea, because I know our patrons are annoyed by all the different apps.
Yeah, right. And then sometimes if there's like syncing issues or something's not talking to one thing or times out, then they're not seeing it in both places. And it could just be, more stressful than it needs to be.
Yeah, I'll say, and this might be like part of the investigation. I know right now, and one of the holdups when we were looking at Simply E from, just implementing it, was that it does not yet integrate Hoopla, which would be
But I
really, really
think
nice.
Palace Project does now.
Do they?
I think so.
Oh,
Let
maybe we need to
me,
look at
sorry,
it
you all are
more
seeing
closely.
yeah, because I know I looked at it a little bit, a couple of months back, because Palace Project has been, and Tara, as my boss, knows this, I've been looking at it off and on for like the past year. So, I'm pretty sure I saw, I don't know, I can't find my notes, of course, but
Yeah, it's been on our radar, but I don't know, and I'm not actually sure where they are in terms of like accepting new libraries,
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
or
So
if
we'd have to
that's
do a little bit of
something
work
like
on
as
that.
a consortium, and yeah, as a consortium, would there be interest in like, could we join as a consortium for everyone? Or would that be, is that more like Overdrive and Hoopla, where you kind of have your own instance, especially if you're integrating your own stuff, that would kind of make sense.
Yeah, so I think kind of maybe doing a little bit, maybe we could spend a meeting. And these are not, we don't have to hit all of these goals next year. These are just kind of things to get our conversations going. They're going to make great topics in our meetings. Maybe we could spend, we could prioritize what we want to look into. And then if something carries over into the following year, then we could totally move it as well. So this is, we've got a lot. So thank you for participating in this little activity, because I think we've got a lot going and I'm getting more excited about 2024. It's hard for me to come up with topics for our meetings. So this is nice. And April, Sarah added that they've got enough power users. If they could access everything from one app, they'd be all for it. I agree with that. April enjoys Comics Plus. Great. And was Homewood new this year for Comics Plus? No, right? You've Homewood has had it, I think, for a little bit. There was a new library that joined this year, but I don't believe it was Homewood. All right, let me go back to my notes and let's see if there was any other things I had. Yeah, I think those are
Another
the...
question.
yeah.
Is there any, so we looked at a couple group purchases here. Is there anything, I don't know what the EBSCO package, are there like statistics that you are looking for, or I'm trying to think, yeah. Anything, or kind of anything kind of around our like existing EBSCO group purchase, which is of course our biggest one, that you would want to investigate, like either training, marketing we've talked about a little bit in this group, I know. Yeah, anything with the kind of utilizing our existing, getting the most out of EBSCO, I guess. Challenges that y'all have had. I don't hear anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're always curious about
Yeah, Dawn has added in the chat that anything in that area is useful or helpful. Folks just don't seem to use it.
yeah, is there anything this group wants to investigate around that? I know Dex has a project right now to look at what are some things we can be doing to better understand how patrons use e-resources in the catalog and like from your websites.
Mm.
Bounces marketing stats on why it is better than Google. Yeah. That might be something this group could look into if you were interested in that. Um, you know, marketing strategies, looking at what works, what doesn't work, how to build up usage.
Okay, do we want to add? I think we've got a good amount of goals, and some of that might spill over into our topics, which, oops, we're just gonna like, where is my, oh my gosh. Okay, there we go. Okay, so maybe we could talk about, oh, I forgot to mention as well, or maybe gauging this group. We talked about group purchases a little bit, but how many of your libraries are currently using Hoopla that are here today? And would there be any interest in a consortium for Hoopla, for SWAN? Okay, great. Okay, yeah. This is Hoopla a lot. Great. I mean, as working at SWAN and being able to have sort of a consortium view of Hoopla would be really nice.
It would make
So
our
that's why
lives
I
so much
want it.
easier. But it might make your lives a little, so there's the things involved might be it would be a shared collection, so that might be appealing or not appealing to some folks. But that means, we might have like a user group or something that would manage, or task force that would manage that shared collection. And Olivia, Hoopla mentioned to you that was kind of a new possible service they were adding.
Yeah, they did say that they do have a couple of library consortia using Hoopla consortium right at the moment. So it is definitely new. We would not be the first ones on it, using it, which is great. But yeah, I think I'd like to get a little bit more information about it. And it looks like our group here today, looking like it might be a possibility, something to investigate a little bit further. Great. All right. I got a thumbs up. Thanks. All right. So now topics. So kind of maybe, these goals, these topics are going to go hand in hand. So what are some things that we could always, some go-to topics that we could always have on our agenda?
maybe like if anybody's got a new e-resource they want to talk about and share with the group, you know, kind of like a show and tell.
Yeah, that's good.
I
Show,
like that.
yeah, and tell new e-resources. Yeah, that's great. Oops. Okay. April added accessibility of online resources. And what do you mean by accessibility?
Yeah, do you mean like availability? Kind of like where they're integrated, or accessibility, like accessibility for people with disabilities? Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that kind of goes hand in hand with the Rails VPAT database that this group worked on, that I think has been, not sure if how much that's been continued, how much that's been maintained over the past year or so.
Oops, I can't spell. And that's the Rails VPAT database, right?
Yeah, I just do that in the chat for those of
Okay,
you,
great.
if that's new for you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tara, for adding that in there. Yeah, I was looking at that VPAT database the other day, and it looked like there was still a list of vendors where we don't have VPATs on file for, and then some of them are, I don't know how often they necessarily need to be updated, but maybe that's something that we could discuss and talk about. Look into what other
Yeah, it looks like most
folks
of
are
these,
doing.
some of them are for 2018, some are 2021, 2019. So there's probably some newer VPATs out there, and some things that have updated VPATs.
What other topics? Anything that maybe when you join these meetings, something you'd like to hear or talk about that I haven't thought about? Yeah, troubleshooting. Okay, yeah, training, troubleshooting. Yeah, so I know I attended a workshop last year for troubleshooting e-resources, and like a lot of things, I got busy and it sort of got put on the back burner. And just because of my position in SWAN and what you all have access to, it could get a little murky, like how much troubleshooting is going to be relevant to you. So I think we could discuss that, right? Like together. Could tell me what you have access to, what you could see, and maybe, like, are we talking, I guess I should maybe make it clear. Are we troubleshooting resources for you as for your librarians and staff at the library, or do we want to put together some troubleshooting resources for our patrons? Probably for the library and library staff, right? Grab a sticky for that. Yeah, library
In the chat, library staff.
resources for staff. Yeah, that's good. I know I had a ticket recently, and I hadn't had one. I had the same ticket, not from the same library, obviously, but about a year ago when I first started, and it was for what to do, or it was troubleshooting. It was overdrive, and it was assigning a patron a new library card, and holds in current checkouts don't automatically just carry over. So there is a merge that has to be done in overdrive. And I don't have access to Marketplace in overdrive. So this is where it gets a little sticky for me, where I'm like, well, how much, how much help, how useful can I be? But I think like that's a really good troubleshooting article that might be available for you. And we could work on something like that together, because I can't see Marketplace. So
it's a mystery to us. We're always curious what's in there.
Yeah, like I point to the article that Overdrive has available on their support site, and hoping that it works and it goes through. I haven't gotten any follow-up, so I'm assuming everything was okay. But yeah, like maybe that might be that would definitely be a good one, right? For like, as library staff, you're not wasting time opening a ticket with SWAN, and then for me to tell you like, well, I can't do it for you. Here are the steps to do it. Where it's just kind of available on our support site for you all.
Yeah, I think that's a great candidate for this group to develop some resources and share your tricks.
Yeah. Yeah, April's reporting that they had some issues with their personal account, which is the switch to Libby, which obviously, as long as that switch was happening, there was always going to be things that didn't go according to plan, right? But yeah, okay, I think that'd be something I like to work on together. Okay, there's a question in the chat about how everyone has switched to Boundless. How's that going? I haven't had tickets, so I'm assuming everything's okay, but I'd like to hear your feedback. Good, that's good. Hey, no, pretty smooth, only 2 issues. Oh, great. Okay. Oh, that's good, Don, that they were able to correct that. I know we were also, as e-Read Illinois members, also received an email about some additional IP addresses that needed to be added, and I got a couple tickets for it. Our ITSS department added those IP addresses. They're going to be doing some maintenance at Boundless, which is why they needed to add these. But has anybody heard or had any patrons reporting any issues with accessing their ebooks or e-audiobooks? Great. Yeah, no reports. That's good. Like when things just work out, right? No news is good news. Yeah, I know that switch to Boundless it seemed a little fast to me, even though it was like a 3 or 4 month lead time that we had when we found out to when they made the switch, because the overdrive to Libby took so long that Boundless seemed a little quick. So I know we were on pins and needles a little bit, like hoping that it would be smooth. And it seems to be relatively it's gone okay. I know I don't think I've had any tickets open regarding other issues with Boundless, but not accessing and the materials and things like that. So that's good. And the current issues with Boundless are things that have carried over from Access 360. So it has nothing to do with the switch itself. Great. Do we want to add any other sort of topics? I mean, the advisory, we meet 4 times out of the year. So I think that's definitely a good place for the show and tell, because enough time has passed where, you know, it's likely that somebody will have a new resource to add. Thanks, Carrie. Take care. Carrie had to leave. I know she did let us know that she had to sign off at 2:30. Great. It's a little quiet, so I'm guessing yeah, I can't think of anything else. Thanks. Yeah. And I'm sure as time goes on, there'll be, you know, maybe more things that might be consistent that we could add as like a go-to agenda item all the time. Great. How about any other type? I know we talked with the troubleshooting resources for staff. I know we talked a little bit about, oops, overdrive. Oh no, what am I doing? Sorry, let me get rid of that. I'm just gonna write like just sort of that subtopic for overdrive. Maybe Hoopla. I know I had a ticket about, and I think it, you know, the error message is so vague and there's only so much I could see on my end. But I'm guessing it had to do with switching libraries and having a Hoopla account already set up with the previous library. Maybe we could create some sort of article or something on like, you've moved to a new library, or yeah, you've moved to a new library, kind of like, or for your staff, you know, a patron is switching libraries. Here are maybe some things to keep in mind. You know, we have to merge their cards in overdrive. We have to make sure that their Hoopla is set up okay. I don't know. Is that too much? Is that overreaching? Or do we think something like that might be useful for staff? Okay. So maybe some sort of change it to the purple, to the violet. Some sort of, actually that might be more of a goal than a topic. Checklist for staff updating patron library cards. I know there's a lot there, but something like that. Similar to the canopy. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so we could lump that in the just troubleshooting. Yeah, because it's all those little pieces, right, that we don't really necessarily think about how they all talk and how they're already all set up and established. So maybe worth having something for library staff to kind of quickly look at when they're updating either an ID or switching patron moves from one library in SWAN to another one. Okay. Great. Thanks for sharing. Way to let patrons know about the issue. So there's a question in the chat about letting patrons know about issues with a specific resource. And is that a question for SWAN or for our members that are here at the meeting today?
And that specifically about Canopy, Michelle?
Yeah, I don't think I wasn't aware of any issues with Canopy. So if there's something that like I get wind of that there's an issue going on, I mean, obviously we have our SWAN comms, we could do a news post. But yeah, for other members, I don't know, other members that are here, if you've had issues, how to best communicate that. And Michelle, your usage has gone down with Canopy, right? Is what I'm gathering from that statement. Yeah, okay.
I know Canopy switched their authentication a little while back, right,
Right,
Olivia?
that's right. They did do that a little while back, yeah. Yeah, April shared that they troubleshoot as much as they can, but they haven't done anything like an email blast or website posting.
I vaguely remember this happening a few months ago and having to talk a few patrons through it, but I haven't talked to anyone about it for probably months.
Yeah, that's true. Patrons most likely get error messages and they don't go through the additional steps to reach out. So it's definitely something to think about. Like at what point is it worth letting everybody know that there might be an issue, you know? Haven't had any recent complaints. Yeah, but this usage has gone down a bit. Okay. And I think another ticket that I had come in this week, and that may be something to think about, is like, I don't know, and maybe this is completely off the table, but sort of making any type of how comfortable people here are with like recommendations for like the ticket specifically was blocking specific patron types in Hoopla. You know, I don't know how you all approach that now. We at SWAN, we don't have particular guidelines for, you know, we leave that up to the libraries, but I don't know if anybody here or in this advisory might find useful to make some sort of recommendation. And it doesn't have to just be Hoopla. We could, you know, could extend to other vendors or platforms. But like I said, it could also be something that's just not even worth discussing or having a meeting about. Yeah, interesting conversation to have for sure. So I don't want to commit to like making recommendations for those types of platforms because those are agreements that you have made with that vendor. So it really is up to you. Yeah, why block a patron?
That's always a good, that's kind of a philosophical question.
Mhm.
They're not checking anything out that they can't, you know, that they need to return. So
Yeah, well, maybe we could put it as a something to discuss in one of our upcoming meetings, just to gauge the temperature on that. All right, April has to jump off. Great, thanks for joining, April. Yeah, maybe I won't even add the Hoopla recommendation for blocking patrons on as a topic. I think I'm gonna let that lie. And if I get any more tickets about it, or it sparks some discussion on the community forums or something, then maybe it might be worth bringing up at a later meeting. But I think I'll let it lie for now, if everyone's okay with that. All right, so I think that was really what we had on the agenda today. Let me just go back. Let me make sure we didn't leave anything off. I don't think we did. We do have time though. I don't know if anybody wants to bring up any last minute topics or anything, or any questions you might have. Okay, so 10-second rule of silence. I'm going to take that there's nothing else to discuss today, but so starting next year, Tara, while you're here, the registration is going to go through Zoom now, correct?
yeah, the registration will go to Zoom, and see, I could even grab.
Sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot. I know you're going to talk about it at Fireside. So that was
Yeah,
going to be my
but
plug for Fireside.
this just happened to fall right as we got all of these groups up for 2024. So yeah, let me just send you a link to the meetings. Real quick here. I'm sorry, I should have had this ready to go. It would have made sense.
No, I didn't
Here's a
warn
link.
you that I was gonna do that.
Here's a
So.
link to the Zoom registration. And so yeah, this year all of the registration for events will go through Zoom, and you can register for all 4 of next year's meetings all at once if you want, or if you know, say you're gonna go on a fabulous vacation in June, then you could just, you know, register for the 3 that that you would be able to make, and then you'll get email reminders and meeting links for the meeting.
Yeah, so moving forward, you do have to register in order to get the link, correct?
Yeah, so if you don't register, it's okay. You can just register on the spot, but you would have to register to get the link.
And it is something that Tara is going to talk about at our SWAN Fireside chat coming up on Tuesday, the 31st. So if you'd like to see it in action and get some more information about it, definitely attend the Fireside, or you could review the meeting at a later time as well, because they do get recorded, correct?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Right. All right, then I'm going to stop sharing and I will stop recording. What's this other